of our discussion today. I think you will recall that during its campaigns, the ruling party pledged to introduce constitutional changes that will establish what was called true federalism. Indeed, it even set up a committee headed by Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State, which in its own recommendations accepted many of the popular ideas of restructuring, including state police, revised formula of revenue sharing, and the abolition of the local government tier, as we know it today. According to Chief Shogun Oshoba, the gentleman you recall was the former governor of Ogun State, and one of the leading lights of the APC, the El-Rufai report was actually discussed, adjusted, and adopted at all levels of the party, including the all-powerful National Executive Committee. But not much has been heard about the El-Rufai report since the APC was re-elected to a second term, I think about 2 years ago now. Indeed, Oshoba said that he's shocked that, and I'm quoting him here, that some people sat on the report, which in actual fact had gone through all the organs of the party, which had in attendance the president and the governors. This is the end of quote. Well, there is another election coming soon to Nigeria, and I think the APC has to do with this hot potato. We at the Daily Trust are making our own contribution to this by putting together this exceptional panel, which has both depth and breadth to offer such insights and ideas. It is to be chaired by the former president, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who, as you recall, did convene the 2014 Constitutional Conference, but left office before he could implement his report. We will soon hear from Chief Ayo Adebanjo, who is perhaps the oldest practicing politician in Nigeria, in my reckoning. He was born in 1928 and has been in the Zikis movement, in the Action Group, and currently in the Pan-Yoruba Afenifere as one of his leaders. So the chief has lived through some of the finest and ugliest moments of Nigerian history. From the constitutional processes, the struggle for independence, party politics, civil war, military rule, and the return to democracy. I think it is a very rare thing to reach 90 years, which he has, and rarer still to be involved in the politics of your country into ripe old age. Chief John Nwodo has just finished his tenure as the 9th president of the Ohanaeze Indibo, the sociocultural group that represents the interests of the Igbos in Nigeria and I think worldwide. He was a minister of the Federal Republic twice. I think the first time as a strapling young man, if I recall well, under President Shehu Shagari, which is nearly 40 years ago. And then under General Abdulsalami Abubakar in the last military regime, which again is over 20 years now. But he's still shy of 70. So I think many more can maybe heard from him in 2023 politics. Professor Atahiru Jega is my generation, but has also developed an early sense of responsibility, both personally and professionally. Still in his early 60s, he He was president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, more than 30 years ago. Vice Chancellor of Bayero University, Kano, and even his chairmanship of INEC was a full 7 years ago. I think that each of these three main speakers has brought something unique to the table, a blend of knowledge, character, and experience, which are the building blocks of any serious enterprise. So let me finish this short welcome with a few questions of my own. Was Nigeria really ever a great place to be? Can it be made great again? You recall the man who made this slogan popular left his country not so great recently. What is at the heart of our national dilemma? Is it the structure or the culture? Is the problem the absence of any particular set of laws or the prevalence of much lawlessness? I'm not asking our panel to answer all these questions. I have no doubt they will raise issues that they think are relevant, and we'll hear words of wisdom from them. We may even live here better citizens. The question is whether that will translate into a collective resolve to build a better Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Malam Kabiru Yusuf, Chairman of Daily Trust Limited, for that welcome address, which in a very succinct way set the stage for the conversation that we are going to be having. Before I call on our distinguished chairman, His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, for his opening address, let me quickly acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Chief Mike Ogiadome, the former Chief of Staff, His Royal Highness King A.J. Turner, the Obanema of Opume, Honorable Labaran Marco, Nigeria's former Minister of Information, Honorable Ishaku Bawa, former Chief Whip, House of Representatives. And like I said, as the day unfolds, we will be recognizing a few other people. It's important to say that some of them are physically here, others are joining us virtually. Mala Murtala Aliyu, Secretary General of the ACF, Alhaji Khalil Bolaji, Secretary General, North Central States People's Forum, Honorable Mohammed Sani Zoro, Member, Northern Reawakening Forum, Alhaji Yusuf Hamisu Abubakar, Member, Northern Reawakening, His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Ali Bak, the Ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Nigeria, His Excellency Mr. Khalilu Traore, Ambassador of the Côte d'Ivoire to Nigeria, are all with us here today, as well as Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. And we will come back to recognizing the presence of other people as the program unfolds. Without further delay, please allow me to invite His Excellency, the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, JCFR, to present his opening remarks.
Thank you. Please be seated. We have very eminent leaders with us today. I don't need to bore you by going through our protocol list, but acknowledgement leaders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I commend the Daily Trust Media Group for keeping up with this dialogue series for the past 18 years. As a media organization, you have been doing a lot to contribute to nation building But let me admit that some of your editorials are sometimes tough on leaders. And the chairman of the board also attests to that. And I can remember that I also have a good share of it when I was in office. I understand that Hall was in a bid to guide the efforts towards building a greater country for us all. And as leaders, we have a duty and responsibility to listen to all voices, no matter how bitter some might sound to us. Today, you have brought us together to have a conversation on restructuring, which is one of the major issues in our national discourse. And I commend the paper presented by the chairman of the board. I'm happy that the discussants here are eminent personalities that will do justice to the topic. I commend the Daily Trust Media Group for bringing these eminent Nigerians together to brainstorm on this topical issue that has seized the attention of our country. Chief Ayo Adebanjo, I didn't say much again because the board already explained who he is. A leader of the Afenifere, prominent member of the Zikis movement, attended most of our conferences that were conferences designed to shape this country. Chief John Nia Wodo, of course, just left the Indigo Cultural Organization as the national president, and now the leader of the Southern and Middle Belt Forum. We commend you and congratulate you for this your new assignment. Of course, Atairu Muhammadu Jega, because he was the chair of INEC, so everybody knows so much about him, because he's a professor of political science, so I know it will lead us through. And when he was the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, it was a period when civil society confronted the guns. So he knows it all. The concept of restructuring is not new to us as Nigerians. Before the Civil War, Nigeria operated with 4 regions. At the onset of the war, General Yakubu Gowon, then head of state, thought that running Nigeria under the regional structure posed a threat to the unity and sovereignty of our country. So he opted to restructure Nigeria into 12 states. There were mixed reactions, for and against, across the nation by our people. But at the end, the 12-state structure remained. What General Yakubu did in a war situation preserved our nation and saved us from disintegration. A nation is an organic being whose life is characterized by reforms, adaptation, and structural changes. At independence in 1960, the population of Nigeria was about 45 million, and our early leaders and the British colonial government decided that the young nation was too vast and complex to be governed centrally from Lagos. Thus, they bequeathed a federal system of government with strong regional autonomy and a unifying central government. This arrangement was also accepted and reaffirmed by the Republican Constitution of 1963. 61 years after independence, our population is now estimated to have exploded to over 200 million people. In the same vein, the call for restructuring has continued to grow and is growing louder every day. Within these 6 decades, our political space has assumed many colorations. We had gone from the 3 regions to 36 states and 774 local government councils. And we moved away from when the different regions have a different arrangement to manage the local government level to a unified local government system across the country. Yet, all that did not seem to have provided an answer to the questions on the administrative structure of our country and how best it should be governed. As president, I had the privilege of celebrating our nation's Golden Jubilee in 2010 and the centenary of our amalgamation in 2014. When we were to celebrate these milestones, some Nigerians challenged our intentions, arguing that the amalgamation was faulty. They insisted that there were no reasons to celebrate because they believe that the amalgamation has not helped the growth of our country. My belief is that all nations have their unique history. Professor Jiga will tell us, as a professor of political science, the amalgamation is not the problem, by my belief. Rather, there was too much emphasis on divisive politics, and this has greatly affected our nation's unity. It was the need to address these issues that my administration elected 6 years ago to convene the 2014 National Conference, which I inaugurated on March 17, 2014 in Abuja, for the specific purpose of addressing some of the issues that have been agitating the minds of our people. As a country, we have our peculiar challenges, and we should devise means of solving them. But we should not continue to vent our spleen on the amalgamation. As Shakespeare in Julius Caesar said, the fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves. My conviction is that discussion on restructuring will not help except we restructure our minds, because some of the challenges or some of the challenging issues at the national level still exist at the state and local levels. In Nigeria, it's very easy for people to point at the central government because I was there and I felt the pulse. But sometimes what is happening at the center, it also happens at the state level, at the local government level, and sometimes even in our communities. There are some states that, based on the part of the map of the state that you come from, or the language you speak, or how you worship your God, you can't even try to contest election as a governor. Nobody will even look at you. Go through how states conduct their local government elections. For example, in this country, Jiga will know more because he was the chair of INEC. There are some states that when the national electoral body conduct the general elections, opposition parties could win some seats in the state assembly. They could win some seats in the National Assembly, both House of Rep and Senate. But when we get to the local elections that the state governors will conduct, those parties that probably even have one senator and some 2-3 members of House of Rep and some 5 members of the state assembly can't even win a councillorship seat, not to talk about a chairmanship seat. Do we need restructuring to solve that anomaly? And how do we restructure to make sure that those things don't happen again? This shows that restructuring alone may not solve all the anomalies in our system. I believe that restructuring for a better nation is good, but there are other fundamental issues we should also address. We cannot restructure in isolation without tackling the challenges that polarize our nation. These include ethnic and religious differences, as well as lack of patriotism. The issues of tribe and religion have continued to limit our unity and progress as a nation. Let me tell you a bitter experience. I cannot say a bitter experience, but funny conversation I had with a teacher. He happens to be one of my former students. And as I left office, I was freer, so more people can come to me. And he said, Mr. President, what we are seeing in some of the schools, especially around Abuja and some of these areas, is that sometimes, even at the primary level, it's so difficult for Muslim children and Christian children to sit together and play. There is this kind of mutual suspicion. It may not be happening in all the schools, but a teacher told me, and I felt it because I know most of us here who attended schools in those days, primary school and secondary schools, that Muslims and Christians stay together, and there were no mutual suspicion. You don't see any of them as an enemy. And it reminds me some time ago when I read a short story by the late Gabriel Okara on children literature. It's a story titled Little Snake and Little Frog. And that story goes that there was a day the little frog, the baby frog and the baby snake went to play, and they enjoyed themselves playing. And both of them went home. And when Mama Frog asked Little Frog, who did you play with? I said, oh, I played with a little snake. Then Mama Frog warned, look, those are the people that eat us. Don't play with, run, when you see them, run away. And when the baby snake went home, the mama snake also asked, who did you play with? And the baby snake said, I play with Little Frog. And the mama snake said, that is our food. When next you see, just eat it. The following morning, baby frog and baby snake went out again, and they met somewhere. From a distance, baby frog stopped, was no longer moving. Now baby snake, come, let us play, come. Then the baby frog said, no, what your mom told you, my mom also told me. And baby frog turned back and started running back home. Some of our conversations in this country is taking the dimension of baby frog and baby snakes. We are making our children to hate themselves instead of our children coming together collectively to build a nation. Leadership is like giving care to a sick person. Society and individuals are almost the same. If you have major problems, sometimes the drugs doctors will prescribe at the first level of treatment will be different as we continue to progress and improve. So is nation building. I would like to refer us to the experiences of 2 African countries which attempted to tackle the problem of diversity from a different perspective than ours at independence. Tanzania, under the leadership of Julius Nyerere, and Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah. I may not go to specifics because there are professors of political science here. They went to the extreme to advocate one-party state, which leaned towards the left. They were first a bit to the left. Both leaders emphasized strong national governments to promote national unity and patriotism, which departed from our own regional approach, which was based on strong regional parties and political competition for power between the regions. From independence, the struggle was, politics was based on regions. And there was this tension. It's a dynamic duo between the regions who will produce the national leaders. And that is still haunting us till today. Let me state for the records that I strongly oppose both the philosophy and the idea of one-party state. No, I don't believe that is the best. As well as a unitary system of government as a solution to ethnic and cultural diversity. That cannot solve the problems. I believe that federalism and liberal multi-party democracy offer by far the best opportunities for good governance in a multi-ethnic nation like Nigeria. Yet, it is obvious that the initial emphasis of Tanzania and Ghana on promoting national unity, patriotism among citizens, and strong national parties that cut across ethnic, regional, and religious divides, and leadership orientation that promotes fairness, justice for all, and love of country have helped both Ghana and Tanzania in their journey of nationhood. It has helped them to better manage some of the extreme ethnic and religious divisions that have dampened the unity and progress of our own country. I remember last October, I was in Tanzania. I led the African Union team to observe their elections. And I had a conversation with the foreign minister, a cerebral professor of law, quite a senior person. And he told me, we were looking at the Nigerian structure and the Tanzanian structure. I said that he worked with Julius Nyerere, that sometimes some people don't know why Julius Nyerere opted for a one-party state. As at that time, Tanzania was a very complex country, so many tribes, so many languages. And they have two major religions, Christianity and Islam. In Tanzania main area, Christianity and Islam is almost like 50-50. But Zanzibar, which is a semi-autonomous part of Tanzania, Muslims are just about 80 or even 80-something%. Christians, I believe, less than 20%. So you have that kind of structure. So that Julius Nyerere said he was going to do two things to unite his country. First was one-party state, that if he takes multi-party, some parties will take religious angles and polarize the country based on religion. Some parties will take ethnic lines and will polarize the country based on ethnicity. Then the second thing he did was, these multiple languages they were speaking will not help them. And that he has to encourage one major language. And luckily for him, which in Nigeria we don't have, we have Pan-East African language, the Swahili. So encourage the teaching of Swahili at the primary and the secondary level, to the extent that all their textbooks were translated into Swahili. So Swahili and English become the lingua franca, and they emphasize more on Swahili that is even spoken by some of the tribes. So everybody now speaks Swahili. So in national conversation, they use Swahili. Even if you go to observe election, anybody, you can talk with anybody if you understand Swahili. Some after finishing secondary school, they are not even so fluent in English, but everybody speaks Swahili. So that one-party system and the common language that all of them use, try to unify them. They still have their political problems, but it's not based on religion, it's not based on tribe. But well, just like I say, every society evolves. When Judge Nyerere left later, the president then felt that they should go multi-party. And a referendum in 1992, a referendum was called, and 80% still voted for one party because they believe that one party is helping their unity. 20% voted for multi-party. Julius Nyerere was still alive then, but he encouraged them that, look, yes, 80% voted for one party, but the whole world is going multi-party. Tanzania cannot be left behind. So even though one-party state was 80%, but they now moved to multi-party. But even as they moved to multi-party, the Nyerere's party is still the only party that continues to win presidency till today. Another country that we may mention is Rwanda. Rwanda is another recent example where polarization on ethnic lines nearly destroyed that beautiful country in 1994, leading to extreme inter-ethnic hatred, anarchy, violence, and killings. It is the recent example of genocide. Today, Rwanda has stepped back from ethnic bigotry and division to a system that emphasizes national unity and leadership performance and patriotism. Rwanda has made tremendous progress along this path. So Rwanda was a basket case in 1990.